Welcome back, everyone, to the Bitcoin Business Bureau. I'm your host, as always, LitecoinLeader. Today, I want to talk about what seems like a simple topic, but it's got some subtlety to it. So I want to go over the difference between Bitcoin and blockchain. So in summary, Bitcoin and blockchain are not exactly the same thing. So blockchain is a technology. It is a digital ledger, which is basically a book, right? It's a book of stuff, okay? And each entry in the list of activities is tied to the previous one. So every so there are data blocks, okay? So every 10 minutes on Bitcoin, for example, there's a data block created. That's what the miners do. The miners are actually validating transactions, and they create that block. And the one who gets to create the first block or create the next block gets a certain amount of Bitcoin. That's how Bitcoin works. But a blockchain is just simply data that is chained together. So you could pick any block in the chain and go. You can pick the last block in the chain and trace it all the way back to the beginning one, because the information from the previous block is inside the next block. That's how they're chained together. So I won't go into the math behind it, but they use like the data from the last block, and they put it into a computer program that puts out what they call a hash. And that hash is based on all the data in that previous block, and that hash gets put into the data block of the next block. So that hash is that's kind of the path. Like, here's how to get, if you start at block 100, in block 100, there'll be a hash that says, here's how to get to block 99. So you can trace from block 100 to 99 to 98 to 97, and they're all chained together. And so that's how a blockchain works. It is just it's a record of data, a digital record of information you can't change it, right? That's the rules of a blockchain. Not all blockchains have those rules or have even acted upon those rules, but in principle, the idea of a blockchain is that the simple answer is a blockchain it's a series of blocks of data that are all interconnected. Like, the last one leads to the one before that leads to the one before that. Okay, so they're sequenced. So that's how a regular blockchain works. Now, there are different flavors of blockchain and how do you use mining? Do you use staking? That's how the network is created. The network supports the blockchain. The blockchain is like the computer program. Okay, the miners or the staking nodes or whatever are the things that run the computer program. So you can deploy the computer program in many different ways. You can have a centralized blockchain where just say one company owns the blockchain. They use that for all their internal data. That is a centralized blockchain, much like central bank digital currencies are looking to be a centralized blockchain. That's why if they're owned by one entity, there's your single point of failure. That's not good. Also, it's your single point of control. So if you're relying on information, let's just say you want to order tools from Stanley Black & Decker, all right? And you want a particular drill and you want warranty information, and Stanley Black & Decker has all that information on their proprietary blockchain, which they keep internal for their own records and customer service and whatnot. Now, I have no idea if Stanley Black & Decker does this yet. I don't know, but it'd be good information. Like, here's the serial number, here's when we sold it, here's how it got sold, here. It's like a database, but you can't change it like that, or you shouldn't be able to change it. It's like, that's not the purpose of it. If you change it, then you kind of messed up the whole record keeping of it. So that's the purpose of blockchain. Not all blockchains are used for keeping records of financial transactions like Bitcoin is, or it's a transfer of value is the actual phrasing of it. But so a blockchain can be used to keep personal information. It could be your home deed. It could be your personal medical records. It could be your digital ID. It could be anything. But that's the kind of stuff that when Web 3.0, that's the kind of data you would control, and you would share the portions that you feel comfortable sharing. Whereas right now, we're in Web 2.0, like the platforms where you enter the data, they own your data. Web 3.0 is about owning your own data, but we're talking about blockchains right now. So a blockchain is a record of information that is linked in a series from block to block to block, so that as long as you follow the basic rules of blockchain, you have a record that's, you can't change it, and it's there, and it's a record, it's a permanent record. Now, if companies have centralized blockchains and they can go and change the entry, there's nothing preventing them because they own the entire network, then that's a problem. Now, one of the advantages of decentralized blockchains, which Bitcoin is an example of, is that now all these record keepers, which are the miners, that's the common phrase, is the computer's running the program, running a node, they are running a copy of Bitcoin, and every so often they try to create the next block, and the first one that gets the answer right of the guess gets to write the next block, and that's how they participate and earn more Bitcoin. So that's the reward for running a node and becoming a miner. But all these decentralized nodes all over the planet, and some are even off planet, but they running a copy of Bitcoin. And the reason that they do that is because that way, if you change one local node, or if you change one copy of it, or even a couple copies, the rest of the network will say, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't look right. Like that doesn't, like that last block was, you changed something. So we're going to invalidate that block for now. Wait for the other network, the rest of the network, to validate one way or the other, because our first opinion is that that doesn't look right. So they'll put it to the side, and then they'll check it and say, yeah, that's corrupted. Go back and start over, whatever, node 74. We don't believe that block, that sort of thing. So the node is self-correct. The network is self-correcting, because if they have 100 different nodes distributed around the planet, and Bitcoin has many more than that, but just say there's 100, and I try to change 5 copies. Well, 95% of the network is not changed, and they will invalidate those 5 copies and say, go download a new copy, or erase those last blocks and get a new copy of the last blocks and try again. So that's, and then the transactions they try to record in that block will be put at the end of the list, and it'll just be added back in there whenever they can. Now, there are times when the network does build and there are actually 2 blocks created at the same time, and then that's kind of like the network will sort itself out there too. So the network is designed to sort out those kind of inconsistencies, so that we have a one record that's linked together and immutable. It's not changeable. It's a record for all time. So in the terms of Bitcoin, you can go all the way back to the Genesis block, the very first block, which, if you pick any block along the chain by following the links back to the previous blocks, you can get all the way back to the original block. Now, Bitcoin is an example of blockchain. So the example I like to give, the analogy I like to give here, is that imagine that blockchain is like, I don't even have my phone with me. Let's imagine I had my phone. Okay. So you have a smartphone, and on your smartphone is an operating system, right? That's the program that's running to run all of your apps. So the analogy here is that blockchain is your operating system. Now, if you want to have an app that you want to use Waze, you want to use Shazam, you want to download iTunes, whatever you want to put on your phone and use often, those are apps that you download from the App Store. Well, some apps you use a lot, and they become the killer app that everybody has. Like everybody seemed to have Waze at one point. Everybody had, I can't even think of some of the other ones, but you get the idea. Everybody's got this app. Everybody's got, whatever. So they have like a texting app. So that the killer apps, the big ones that everybody uses, that is like Bitcoin. So if the operating system, say like an Apple operating system, an iOS, and everybody downloaded Waze to get around. So, and that was the first killer app. There was like, oh man, I got to get a smartphone because I want to use Waze so I can get around and I drive myself around. And it's Uber and Lyft use it. And there's another killer apps, Uber and Lyft. So you got to have those apps. Well, Bitcoin is the first killer app of blockchain because it's the first deployment of the technology. Now, the purpose of that blockchain was to record peer-to-peer transactions of me sending you a Bitcoin, you sending me half a Bitcoin, me sending you a quarter Bitcoin, so on and so on, and recording it all, right? That's what the ledger's intent was. That's not the intent of every blockchain, because some blockchains, as I gave the example before, could be warranty information, medical records, the stuff on your resume, your deed of your house, all that stuff that you want to be recorded and not corrupted, and you have a record that's could be validated and audited. Blockchains are great technology for it. So the purpose of a blockchain is recording information. Bitcoin is a subset of blockchain. It's an implementation of that technology to record financial transactions or peer-to-peer transactions. But again, you can have other projects that use different types of blockchains, and they have different structures of how they deploy their networks and how they build their networks. But every crypto project, every cryptocurrency project works on a plan to get to a decentralized network as fast as possible, because the more decentralized you are, the less open you are to an attack from somebody trying to control over half the network. So imagine a network with only 3 nodes. If you control 2, you control the entire network, and you can do whatever you want. You can vote to say, I'm going to be able to change. I'll change that we're going to have 21 gazillion coins instead of 21 million. Well, you own 2/3 of the network, so you can do that. But in terms of Bitcoin, with thousands of nodes all over the planet, the cost to control all of those nodes and all that hash power is exorbitant and not worth the effort, because not only would it not pay in the long run, but in the short run, in a couple of blocks, the network would say, that's not valid, we're changing it. So I hope this is valuable to you. If anything's not clear, please leave a comment down below. I should have said this earlier at the top, but please like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to get better at that. I really am. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Hopefully this was helpful to you to explain the difference between Bitcoin and blockchain, and how Bitcoin uses blockchain, but not all blockchains are Bitcoin. So with that said, I'm going to close the door in the bureau, say follow leader one more time, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.